Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks to coming to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I almost said the Dragon Age podcast, sorry. It's out of my brain. We were just talking about it. We did a special pre-show that was also a live recording and stream of a Lore Watch episode, so when that eventually does come out, and we don't know when that'll be, because we were waiting for, Dragon Age Veilguard and so forth.
Because reasons, mysterious reasons, magic.
But in the meantime, we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and maybe some questions to answer if we get to them. So yeah, we're going to move on and talk about all of that. Before we go on, though, say hi to both Liz and Joe. I didn't say Liz and Joe say hi. I said say hi to them. You can
Hello to Liz and Joe.
You can greet them however you want.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah.
Hi, Liz.
Yep. So yeah. Oh, hi. No one usually says hi to me. I don't know what to do with that. Thanks. That's not going to distract the heck out of me. Yeah, so we'll just move straight into some news first. Top stories. Right up front, today as we're recording, it's September 24th. Raid Finder Wing 3 just unlocked today. So if you haven't gotten into Raid Finder yet, or you've been waiting, now you can finally go and kill the end boss of the raid in Raid Finder.
The last two bosses.
Last two bosses.
So it's the Silken Court and then the Queen.
Cool.
I'm very curious how this is going to go, because at least in higher difficulties, those are some really complicated fights.
So I actually did it right before the podcast.
Yeah, tell us about it.
So I was kind of curious too, and I was like, okay, the wing opened up today. I'm really curious how this is going to be. So there's some mechanics that they lessen, but for the most part, the fights are the same. They just do less damage. So and we've seen this in the past where LFR won't have a key mechanic. I think as recently as last expansion, there were LFR fights that just straight up did not have a mechanic. And then we've seen that come back in normal and heroic and then add a new one into mythic. I think here, normal and LFR have the same mechanics. They just hit differently or a little bit less. And then heroic adds a mechanic and mythic adds a mechanic. It wasn't bad. It was surprisingly, most people, and either they were people that have done the raid already in normal and knew the fights, or probably more likely, I think people were just reading the situation really well. The floor graphics on the Silken Court are very easy to identify, and it's very clear, don't stand in it. And the visual effect of the spell going off is very clear of, oh, this is an explosion. This is what's going to happen. And so you can see how it moves. They load in slower, and there's more clear floor space. So it's an easier time with that mechanic, but the mechanic is still there. And then catching the general as it goes down to the burrow, and you have to catch him with the web, that's still there as well, as is the dispels. So that fight is still the fight. It's just everything hits a little bit less. And if you miss the catch on the general, it's not an instant kill. It will do a lot of damage, but not enough to kill the raid. So they did a really good job of not dumbing down LFR and giving people exposure to it, because before story modes, that's one thing I think at least I complained about, is that LFR did not train people for normal. And how a lot of the fights, as they get more complicated, how are you going to expect them to know what to do there? And here it's okay, if they go into LFR, they're going to see the mechanics. They're going to have an idea of what's going on. So if they go into a normal later, they kind of know what to do. It's just going to hit harder. Queen was much the same way. So the fight goes exactly as it is. Phase 1's as expected. She does the pulls. She does the slime wave. She does the explosion that you need to jump over the ring, except the ring doesn't kill you if you miss it and can't jump over it, or somebody accidentally explodes the poison ring immediately, because that's always going to happen on LFR, because people don't pay attention to the mechanics and get launched before they're supposed to. But you do go from platform to platform. You still have to kill the ads. You still have to get up the platform in time to stop the raid wipe mechanic. And then you still have to go through the portal phase where the ring will collapse in and you have to dive through the portal to get out. All that's still there. So I want to give the design team props for that, because they could have very easily taken out some of those mechanics to make the fights even easier. But instead, they just made the mechanics easier in that difficulty. So it's a really great way if you want to see what those fights are like. Just imagine them hitting harder.
One of the things I've felt with this raid tier, and maybe one of you can tell me if this is just me, is the fights overall feel easier to me. And not necessarily because they are easy, but I feel there's a lot of mechanics we're running into that I recognize from other fights. Like on Queen Ansarek, you have a mechanic where she knocks you back to another platform, where you have to stand in the right place to get knocked back onto another platform. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing this on Razagath. I remember doing this on Dathia. Okay, we've done this, we've practiced this, so I know how to do this. And so when I hit that mechanic on Queen Spider, it was not like, oh my god, I have to learn something totally new. Oh wow, I've got to do this positioning. I've got to do this. And it was like, oh, this is like that other fight, and now I can go do that. And it felt like there were a lot of mechanics throughout the raid that are like that. It's like, oh, I've practiced this a whole bunch before. I just got to get that muscle memory back. And I don't know if that's just me and my current level of raid experience, or if it's really that we're getting a lot of familiar mechanics and familiar graphical effects that makes it maybe a little easier to grasp these fights.
You're reminding me of back in the day when I was first playing with my first Horde guild. And for some reason, the head of the guild, the raid leader and guild leader, he compared every fight to Omnitron. Every fight was Omnitron again to him. Like there was something you could remember from Omnitron that would help you. Every single time we did anything in the whole of Kata and Mists of Pandaria, every fight was Omnitron. I think that is just something that happens as you build up the mental equivalent of a callus. You just start stockpiling. Like there's fights to this day. I've seen fights where I'm suddenly reminded of stuff from Blackwing Lair.
Yeah,
I just think it's something that happens.
There's definitely an element of it, but I also think there's a certain deliberate amount of placement of it too. Did both of you do Lei Shen at level?
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay, so Matt will remember this. Liz, you did not get to experience this in all its glory. Lei Shen was a fight that had 21 separate mechanics that you had to memorize. And because he had five phases essentially. He had 3 main phases, 2 different intermission phases that you had to deal with. And each one was different based off of what pillar he was at. It was too much. And the human brain can only store so much information and process so much information so quickly. And Lei Shen was the fight that broke raiders because it was just too much. But what you could do is what they're doing now. Like, yes, you could have your Omnitrons and all the fights become Omnitrons, but you can take familiar elements from other encounters that people have had and use them in new and exciting ways, or just use them again in new skins. And people will remember it, like Matt said, like that callus. But it also says you don't have to memorize 21 new mechanics at most. And I think this is a deliberate design choice over the last 2 expansions in particular. At most, you're learning 2 or 3 new mechanics, and that's it. Like,
I will also say though, Lei Shen had the problem of it didn't require 21 mechanics to be memorized for everyone. It required it for the people who were attempting to run this thing, to run the raid, tell people what to do. If you were like a tank, and I was, all I needed to know was what direction to turn him in, because if he was going to blow up the whole section, because there were 4 sections that were around the pillars, if he was going to blow up the whole thing, I just needed to know get away from him. So I really felt like some fights were just like torture for people who had to be in charge of a section or a subsection. Like if the healing lead had to know oh god, the tank is going to get hit with this, I got to blow this cooldown. And the DPS lead had to be, okay, everyone stop shooting, stop hitting him, run over to here. You have to get out now. And so I do think that if they're doing less of that now, that's a good thing, because you burn people out so hard that way. Like we went through tanks like candy in Mists of Pandaria. I ended up having like to jump. I think the end of Cataclysm, I was in Joe's guild.
Yes.
And then I left at the beginning because I had a family emergency, and then I couldn't. They'd replaced me as a tank, so I went back to my old Horde guild, and every other tank left. Like while we were raiding Mists of Pandaria, I became not only the lead tank, I became the lead, like tank lead. I was telling other tanks what to do, and I'm like, oh god, this shouldn't be happening. Don't put me in charge of this. but because we just lost so many people would just burn out on mechanics. It gets kind of nuts when you have that many of them. So yeah, I definitely agree with the idea that if that's what they're doing, it's what they should be doing.
Yeah, and I think that we're all better for it. So like I don't know about Liz's feelings on it, but I've really enjoyed this raid experience so far. Like I like the encounters. Heroic doesn't feel like such a huge jump from normal.
Yeah.
So like it feels all very doable and like not like I'm gonna, it just feels good. It doesn't feel awful.
Yeah, the difficulty level doesn't feel punishing, I guess, and I don't run into something where it feels like, oh my god, I don't have the mental space to deal with this, or something that feels utterly insurmountable, which is probably good, because I've been learning a new class, and I'm not very good at it, but I'm doing my best.
I'm actually real curious now. What class are you playing?
Augmentation Evoker.
Yeah, I guess that would be
which is actually, it got nerfed this expansion, and like getting a lot less play. It's not even making Race to World first right now in a lot of compositions, which is really interesting.
How are you liking it? Before we move on to the next question here,
I like it. It's just such a different mindset, and the base interface is not good at tracking the things you need to track to do it. But the basic gameplay loop is you apply buffs and you extend buffs by using your abilities. So you use your empowered spells, you use your primary attack, your essence using attack, your essence spender, and those things extend. And you also have a buff called Prescience, which is a short cooldown buff that greatly buffs a single player. And that's, you want to toss that on your DPS, preferably when they're about to use a big cooldown. So you wind up with this, it's a buff management spec. You're putting up even might, and you're trying to extend it as long as possible by using your abilities. And you're trying to put out Prescience as much as possible, and also trying to target the right people with it to make the best effect at it. I'm really not good at that part at all. But it's an interesting gameplay loop, and you can play it solo if you want, and you're just buffing the heck out of yourself. But it feels very slow. It feels very slow compared to Devastation. So I've been soloing into Devastation.
Why had they never put a bard in this game if they're going to do that? That sounds so bard-like.
And frankly, this is a gameplay style. When we first started talking about hero specs in The War Within, I was like, man, maybe we're going to get a paladin hero spec that's going to be all about our blessings, because in paladins right now, you have a ton of blessings, and it's like, okay, you need to have all of them on a hotkey that you can easily reach, because when you need them, you really, really need them. But most of the time you don't. And sometimes they're actively detrimental. So I was hoping we'd get a hero spec that would really kind of blow blessings out of the water and make them something really valuable and powerful to play with, and give it a sort of support spec like place that, that's actually almost exactly what an augmentation evoker is. I'm working on getting better at it, but it's very interesting in that the base interface of the game really does not help you keep track of a lot of its stuff. You can't track how much damage you're contributing to a group. They've kind of shoehorned this play style in. It's like a tiny bit of a mess, but it works. It works.
All right, cool. Next up on the story to tell sort of thing, it's currently, if you're playing WoW Classic Season of Discovery, in 2 days from our recording, Phase 5 is going to open up. And have you guys looked at what Phase 5 is at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub, which is cool, but there's a lot more to it. I mean, they've added in new basic tier 2 rework sets for the abilities and specs that you can have in the Season of Discovery that weren't there in original WoW. So they're going to have... Go ahead, Liz.
Blackwing Lair is also getting multiple difficulty levels like they did in Molten Core.
Yeah. And there's also, you can basically go to the Black Rock Eruption event, which is something I don't remember in real game, and you can basically turn in those embers for elemental, essences. So you can trade stuff up to do other things with them. I'm actually really interested in this. I'm interested. There's also going to be the Tarnished Undermine deal. There's a vendor that you can trade with there. The Zul'Gurub itself, it's pretty pretty similar, but there's actually like it goes from 10 to 20 now. It's not just up to 20; it's 10 to 20. You could go in with 10, which I guess you could have done before, but you wouldn't do very well. But it's like a whole different kind of thing too. There's Zandalari priests that you can defeat to gain buffs from powerful Loas to help you and so forth. It's interesting how they're making changes to these things, and they've also changed the way rune discoveries work. They're simplifying them. They want to make it easier for players to complete those runes because a lot of players aren't getting them. So they've done that, and they've beefed up class-specific items. So if you've got like a specific item that's for your class, especially if it's for a kind of like an alternate version of the spec from the various things you can get, like the runes and so forth, those are going to be easier to get as well. Don't really understand the PvP update. I've read it like 3 times, and I don't know what's going on here.
There's also a new raid encounter called the Crystal Veil, which is that's Prince Thunderan, but it's now just a one-boss raid encounter that's not tied to the Thunder Fury quest, and it's going to have all new unique loot and also have some tier 2 tokens.
Yep, that's actually in Silithus. And there's also something going on in Demonfall Canyon. There's going to be a new boss waiting in Demonfall Canyon. We don't know much about him as of this post that I'm reading. They don't say much more than there's going to be that new kind of like world boss type thing waiting in Demonfall Canyon, which if you don't remember, it's the place it's in Ashenvale, and it's just between it's like just between that and where the Orgrimmar area starts, the Durotar. It's right off in that little area, and it's where Grom died. It's where he killed what's his name? Big ugly demon guy.
McTheridon.
McTheridon, thank you. It's where he killed McTheridon and no, I don't think it's McTheridon. I think it's the other one. Manaroth.
Oh, Manaroth.
It's where Grom killed Manaroth and got himself a big demon blast in the face for his troubles. So yeah, that's. I think a lot of Horde players will know where it is because if you leveled up, you would have gone through there, especially if you leveled up in the old days. So yeah, there's actually a lot to this. This is a pretty big phase, and especially considering this means we're going to have at least a phase 6, if not also a phase 7. I know they've posted like a schedule for everything, right? Liz, am I correct in this?
I don't know that the schedule goes past phase 5.
Okay, because we're going to Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub, which means we've got at least AQ and then possibly AQ both 20 and the original AQ 20 and original AQ 40. Don't know what size those will be now. And then there's Naxxramas. So that's a fair amount. That's a lot of stuff to possibly go do. And that's not even counting that they're adding in new stuff, like new bosses, new levels of difficulty. There's a lot going on. So yeah, I mean, Season of Discovery is still my favorite thing that I have never gotten a chance to actually do. And it kind of makes me sad, but it is what it is. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, so it's unfortunate that I can't necessarily play it. But I do like all the different ways it's changing things up and adding things. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Anything else you guys want to see about it? Go ahead, Liz.
I'm just going to say in the last WoW Classic roadmap, it did not map out anything past this. And even this in the roadmap was very vague. It was like end-game content. So we don't really have any details about where we're going from here, but we can make some assumption. As you say, We've got 2 more raids that were in vanilla that Classic could reimagine in Season of Discovery, and it's fascinating to see how it revamps these things.
Yeah, and the fact that they keep also adding in, like, making a world encounter out of Thunderon, like a real honest world boss, that implies that they could do a whole bunch of other stuff with other things in the world. Like, I mean, I think Kazak's still there in his original form, but you could always add a different form of Kazak or change up the Dragons of Nightmare or Azurgos or anything like that. You could even add an entirely new one. You could just straight up make a new one, especially since they seem to be doing that in Demon's Fall Canyon. So yeah, there's something I really enjoy about looking at all the Season of Discovery stuff. Joe, you've been quiet. You got anything you want to say?
No, I really like when they do this. Like, I like when they make modifications and add stuff to it because it feels in a lot of ways like they're going back and can do a lot of things that maybe they weren't able to do the first time around, right? Like, they can add stuff into a lot of dead areas that, because let's be honest, when we were playing vanilla, as cool as it was, there were some areas that just didn't have anything in it, right? And later on, like, stuff would get added, or the world got, especially with Cataclysm, the world got changed. But, going back and making these edits to Classic, in a lot of ways, again, it feels like this is the game that they wanted to make. So I'm here for it. I think it's cool to see it evolve, and this is kind of what I want. I don't want just a pure rehash of what I've already experienced.
Okay, so that's pretty much that. Next up, I feel like we should talk about this at least a little bit. Apparently, one of the bigger problems right now with the War Within is a bug that is essentially making people's guild banks just vanish.
Yeah.
Like some or all of their stuff just goes away. And Blizzard is basically at one point, they've responded on the forums basically saying, we're working on this, but we don't actually know when it will be fixed or even if we can fix it all. Go ahead, Liz.
I mean, the thing is, this was a problem with launch. This is a problem that came with launch when they started doing all of this account-wide stuff, and maybe I would assume that's what caused this. Is they've really changed a lot of the sort of back-end code to do more account-wide stuff and more like cross-faction guilds, and so this was in with launch. Blizzard didn't comment on it until September 20th. Which is that's pretty late when people were logging on and finding stuff missing from their guild banks.
Yeah, I agree. That is a long time. I mean, that's like almost a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say the other part that I think is a little, and I'm sure the truth is somewhere in between because we're not actually seeing the support tickets. But I was reading through Reddit as I am off to do when it comes to the WoW subreddit, and people were commenting about how like. GMs were just telling them there's nothing we can do. We can't do item restores. We can't do anything like that. And then just like telling them to just keep making noise. And I don't know if there's any truth to that. I know that the GMs can't restore lost items because this particular crash or whatever this particular error is, the items are not in a recoverable state. Otherwise, they would have absolutely already reverted it at this point. They wouldn't let people sit there without their consumables and their gold and everything else that they need. But it is something that I do hope that they do spend some time addressing and that it gets some attention because, I mean, while our guild wasn't affected, it would be absolutely crippling to our guild. Like if we were to lose all of the money, all of the consumables that we collectively have been working together to get for all of our potions and feasts and cauldrons and this is not a cheap expansion, right? Like gold-wise, material-wise, everything is fairly gold-sinky. And yes, we're at the beginning of the expansion, but that's kind of the point, right? This is where this type of error hurts the most. So I'm hoping that they are actually spending time looking into it or paying attention to it. I would not be surprised if this has been part of the reason why there's been some very long maintenance windows or extended maintenance windows if they're not trying things on the back end to try to recover from this. Like, they haven't said anything about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's a portion of it.
Yeah, I think in general, Blizzard tends not to say things unless they have a solution ready to air. They've gotten kind of cagey in the past few years. Liz, you were just saying something.
Let me just say exactly what Blizzard said last week, which is, as we investigated, we found the culprit, a technical update that was made to support cross-realm guilds. An unexpected bug caused one of our maintenance processes to make some items disappear. Many of these items were related to professions materials from prior expansions, but it was possible for players to lose other items from their guild banks as well. For the last few weeks, we've been packing up the missing items that we're able to identify as lost by this process, and we will soon mail those items to guild leaders, to the guild leader character for each affected guild. Due to how some of the data was lost, we've reached a point where the result will be an incomplete restoration for some guilds, and we do not have a way to restore the remaining missing items for them. We apologize for that and the long wait time. We really appreciate your patience as we've worked through this difficult issue. So it kind of sounds like we're at the end here. Some of your items will be sent to your guildmaster, and some may just be gone.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they feel like there's going to be a lot they can do about it, which is really unfortunate because this is really bad. Just straight up, it's not good. This is something that really is not what you want to see at the beginning of an expansion.
No.
But
Blizzard did Blizzard did at this point confirm that the issue is resolved. There should be no further issues with guild banks. I know I, for one, have been reading, reports of this and being like, oh, should I put all of these really expensive materials in the guild bank? Are they just going to disappear overnight? I don't know. So that part does make me feel good. They say the problem is fixed. It's not going to be happening anymore.
Yeah, I was just going to say that at least we got a statement, and it is a shame that it took so long, but at least we got something.
All right. So next up, we're going to talk really fast, I guess, because I'll be up front. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I haven't been able to pay attention, but the race for World First is continuing in the War Within. Nerubar Palace. Where are we up to now? The post I had is from a couple of days ago. I think it's from yesterday, and it says we were at World 6. So I don't know where we are right now.
Since most people listen to this on Friday, it's possible the race will be over. We are actually up to Queen Ansarek. Guilds started pulling Queen Ansarek on Tuesday morning, and I should say Monday night, Liquid started pulling Ansarek, and Echo started pulling Ansarek on Tuesday morning. Of course, we had a maintenance cycle this morning, which was actually kind of cut into Liquid's raid day, because we had our long maintenance this morning that actually extended to noon Pacific. So yeah, we're in week 2 of the race, which just means that all of the raids are reset. Raiders are re-clearing raids. If you're watching, you may see some more heroic splits, mythic re-clears, which are always slightly boring. So far in the race, the biggest hurdle has been Kaiveza, which it took 304 kills for Liquid to get Kaiveza. And we've seen some wild strategies show up. The strategy for Kaiveza was to use a single tank, because you just needed all of the DPS. You used a single tank, and you just had a plan for them to die and be rezzed over and over again. So it worked. It seems crazy, but it worked. And before Kaiveza, you had another crazy fight in Avanax. Saying that right? I don't know.
Yeah,
where
close enough.
Guilds were running. He did so much damage, and you needed so much AoE to deal with the massive number of ads spawned that guilds were running with 3 healers and Blood Death Knight tanks for the self-healing, and they were running as many as 3 Frost Death Knights for the AoE, because their AoE windows lined up really well with the damage profile of the fight. So we've seen, I don't recall previous races having such wild raid composition changes fight to fight. So we've got Avanax, where initially people were trying to 3-tank it to control the ads, and then they just went in, okay, we're going to get some Blood Death Knights, and we're going to go crazy. We're going to go, 3 Frost Death Knights, 3 Fury Warriors. We're going to get all the AoE out here. And then you go to Kaiveza, who's a single target fight, and it's like, we're just going to bring we're going to bring Arcane Mages and Devastation Evokers, and we're going to 1-tank it. And then you got to Silken Court, which actually wasn't as much of a challenge. Everyone has cleared Silken Court faster than they killed Kaiveza. So I'm really interested in how Ansarek's going to turn out, because at least fighting through normal, which I've cleared normal, doing that, it felt like Ansarek was easier than Silken Court. Silken Court had just a whole pile of mechanics. So I wonder if we're going to actually see an Ansarek kill pretty quickly, possibly before those of you listening at home hear this podcast. We will see.
But, yep, that's what we're currently waiting for, to see somebody kill the Queen Ansarek in Nerubar, and then we'll basically wait for the next tier of rating to come out and see how many people get, we do to kill those.
Do it again. I do need to point out one thing is we're seeing a lot of Chinese guilds this tier. Of course, WoW has been shut down in China through all of Dragonflight. It just came back, and NetEase actually offered any Chinese guild that gets World First gets a cash prize from NetEase. And if no Chinese guild gets it this raid, there will be a larger cash prize next raid. And we see Chinese guilds really working hard here. So server reset day is, Tuesday in North America. It's Wednesday in Europe. So Europe has a day delay. China has a 2-day delay on when North American servers reset and get the new raid content. So you don't see a lot of Chinese guilds typically making, even getting in the top 10, maybe low on the top 10, because they're so far behind. Right now, we have 2 Chinese guilds in the top 5. We have Hugo Hero. I'm probably, murdering that pronunciation, which is working on Silken Court right now. And we have Jitanhong, probably also brutalizing that pronunciation, at 5th place. So that's our 4th and 5th place guilds, our Chinese guilds. There's 2 more Chinese guilds in the top 10. It's possibly the most international race we've ever seen with we've got US guilds, we've got our usual stand of European guilds, but we've also have 4 Chinese guilds that are fighting really hard to claim world first. I think they're a little too far behind to get all the way to world first. There's still a boss behind Liquid and Echo, who are both working on our final boss right now. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's really interesting to see these teams getting in there, and they're just killing it. They have a 2-day, everyone has a 2-day head start on them, and they're just going in and killing it. We saw Chinese guild Endmyth jump in on day 1, and they're way behind. But instead of going and doing Mythic Plus, doing heroic splits, they're like, no, we're just going to go straight into the raid, and we're going to keep pulling until we kill things. And they really rocked up the numbers in their first day of raiding. Right now, they're in 9th place on the list, and I love watching these races. I think it's real interesting to watch the teams do crazy stuff, and it's been really interesting to watch these Chinese guilds get into the race this time. I don't know. Do either of y'all think that a Chinese guild has a chance at world first with that big delay they have?
Not in this raid. I don't think you can overcome the fact that they're already pulling on the end boss.
Yeah.
But by the next raid, they're not going to need to do, guilds will be coming in. If they're in Mythic now, they will be able to farm Mythic for a while, and they'll go from this Mythic straight to next version's Heroic and or Mythic and just bulldoze it. Usually the way that, in my memory, the way gear works is that if you've been clearing Mythic, you can handle Heroic and the next tier with no difficulty.
Yeah.
So
probably.
It's very likely that if they even do Mythic splits, it'll just be for tier pieces that have set bonuses that they want to exploit. And otherwise they'll maybe do 1 or 2 Heroic clears, but you can just jump straight in and start doing the raid as soon as Mythic opens, because it takes a week, right? Mythic usually opens the week after. Are they doing that now?
Yeah, this one opened a week after Heroic, though they've done both ways. They've opened at the same time, or they've opened after.
If they do it the way where the Mythic is 1 week after, then they might just do Heroic splits the first time to just get any gear they want to get for people. And then the next week, as soon as Mythic's open, they'll just jump right into it. And if they can do that, they can get ahead of the American and Europeans guilds, because they're the ones doing splits. It comes down to how much pressure they can put on them. If nothing else, it might get rid of splits to some degree, which would be nice.
Oh, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because it would
only happen if there was a massive disadvantage to doing it, which currently there is not.
Yeah, I mean, they want to maximize their gear, and running Heroic and funneling gear to the appropriate people is always gonna do it. So I don't think we're going to see the end of endless Heroic splits anytime soon.
Joe?
I have no opinion on the race for world first.
All right, well, we'll move on to some news about Diablo. First off is Diablo 4. They're going to have a pre-launch live stream on October 2nd, which is 6 days before the expansion launch. I don't know what they're going to tell us. I feel like at this point, there isn't a lot to tell us. I mean, we kind of know what we're doing, but go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, I do feel like this is a little late. Maybe they're just going to do some Q&A. They say they're going to give us an in-depth look at Season 6, so maybe we'll learn more details about Season 6, though I kind of assumed Season 6 was going to be another of those seasons that it's this season is the mechanical changes we've made to the base game. So I don't know. We're going to find out.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, for that matter, they might not want to do this season right away. They want to give people at least a little time to play the thing. But
they are not.
I don't know.
They are not giving people a little time to play.
No, I'm not saying they are. I'm saying they should.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, Season 6, Diablo 4 Season 6 starts on the exact same day Season 5 ends, which is the day Vessel of Hatred launches. So we're rolling right in.
It's bad for me because I always level my season characters through the base game. I don't go to any further content until I get through the base game. And that's felt like a good move so far. But I don't want to do that for the next season. If the next season is like immediately, I want to do Vessel of Hatred. I want to see what the new stuff is. So yeah, that's going to hurt me. But yeah, whatever. Not everything is about me, as many people have told me in my life. Joe, are you going to be coming back for Vessel of Hatred, or are you just going?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've been waiting for the expansion.
So what are you going to play? Do you know?
I mean, it's going to be Druid. It's always going to be Druid.
Okay. I thought you might be willing to play the new class.
Nope, Druid. The new class is cool, but I have legitimately zero interest in it. Druid is my happy spot in Diablo. It has everything I want. I can be a giant bear. What else could I need in life?
I mean, I can say as somebody who is often mistaken for a giant bear that there are other things, but sure, that's cool. Go ahead, Liz.
I've oddly had the same feeling about the Spiritborn class. It's like they announced a class that was exactly designed not for me to be interested in it, which is nothing against y'all who are into the Spiritborn, which sounds very interesting. It's got some monk-like feel. It has a little bit of a druid-like feel with its animal spirits that it can call on. Yeah, but I'm like, I listened to news about it, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I hope people enjoy it. I don't even know if I guess I should try it, but I'm not hyped for it. So, but I am hyped about the new story. So we'll see.
Yeah, as for myself, I mean, I'm preparing to abandon all my characters and be spirit. No, I can't even say this. I will be playing a barbarian. We all know I will be playing a barbarian. If I could somehow hack WoW so I could play a barbarian there, that's what I would be doing. It is my favorite Diablo class by a lot, and it always has been for 3 Diablos now. Since Diablo 2, I now actually have a Diablo 2 barbarian in Resurrected. I've got my D3 barbarian. I'm currently messing around there, waiting for the next season after the one we're currently in, because this season too much for me. And in D4, I've got a lot of barbarians. I don't think I currently have a character of any other class, and I think I have 10 characters. They just keep starting barbarians over and over again. Often I just level them to 40 and stop. It's I've gotten as much as I need to. I'm going to co-create another barbarian. So yeah, I feel like they almost could have got away without even making a new class, because honestly, I think people are pretty stratified in what they want to play. But on the other hand, I know people who play everything. So the Spiritborn at least has a cool aesthetic, which is, half the battle, really. Eventually, a cool aesthetic will drag me in. But regardless, don't really know what it's going to be about, but we know it's going to happen. Also, happening today, Diablo Immortal is getting a large update because of next month. We're going to have Hallows Wake, which is essentially a Halloween event. I don't remember if Diablo already had a Halloween event, but probably not. Regardless, they're getting one in Diablo Immortal. It's actually a pretty big update, even though a lot of it is just there's cosmetics for various curses if you want to get those. There's returning events like the Wild Brawl and Shady Stocks and so forth. Winds of Fortune, that's coming back as well. The Alley of Blood, which, I honestly find myself wondering if people in Sanctuary name things to just dare you to go there. If you're going to go to the Valley of Blood, oh, for F's sake. Why is it the Valley of Blood now? But still, yeah, there's quite a lot coming back.
Maybe they're just naming things accurately. Why is it the Valley of Blood? Well, yeah, there's.
I mean, look at it; it's full
there,
of blood. So look at it; the whole place is completely covered in blood. Fair enough. Maybe we shouldn't go there anymore. They have the best pierogies on the other side of the Alley of Blood. I'm gonna go. I mean, I love pierogies. Really, okay. I don't know if I love them that much, but sure. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of balance changes. There's some feature updates. There's new runes being added. There's tooltip updates. There's the Tower War, which is getting some changes to gameplay. there's just a lot. This is a big update. War bands are going in size from 8 to 12 members because people apparently wanted to have more people in their war bands. There's a statistics log for dungeons now, so you can actually turn how much damage you're doing in dungeons, which is, I think, pretty cool. You got familiars. Go ahead.
Watching Diablo Immortal develop has been really interesting because I think Immortal really is a great game. And every patch, they add so much content to it. There have been 2 new classes that we haven't seen in any other Diablo game, but I wish I could play in other Diablo games.
Yeah.
So I think the development on it has been great. I think they keep adding really interesting content. It just remains the monetization strategy that is so frustrating that I no longer actively play Diablo Immortal, which it kind of makes me sad, because every time I see these patch notes, I'm like, wow, that sounds super cool, and I'm not going to play it. Oh.
The monetization stopped me too, but at this point, that's not what's stopping me. I just can't. I cannot be playing Diablo Immortal 2. It's just, there's too much. I'm playing World of Warcraft. Yeah. I'm playing Diablo 4. I'm playing Diablo 3 sometimes. I'm playing Diablo 2 sometimes. I'm playing other games like Starfield or, Dragon Age Inquisition when I feel like it. Or, I've still got the Legendary Edition for Mass Effect, and I play that from time to time. I gotta do something else, guys. As somebody said when they were writing about Blizzard all these years ago, they just stopped peeing. It's like, I can't. I have to do bios from time to time. I have to eat and see my wife. I'm sorry, guys. I can't. Greedfall 2 is coming out. It's in early access. What do you want? You want my blood? Just take it. Take my blood.
There are too many games. It's a real problem.
Yes, it's I guess it's a good problem to have, but nevertheless, it's just yikes. I don't have the time to play Diablo Immortal, especially since if you pay it without paying them, you will have to sink a lot of time into. And I refuse to give them any additional money. I would have bought the game. I would have been happily spend like $40-$60, bought the game, but I am not going to just continuously jump through hoops for yet another $5 purchase that adds up to like $500 by the end of the year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
It's death by a million paper cuts, right? Like it's one of those things that I think I talked about a while ago. Like, I don't look at what I spend or have spent in like League of Legends. I know that if I were to do that, and there was an API that would like actually look at what you have and extrapolate what your money value was, it makes me sad. Don't get me wrong. Like, all the stuff I have, the skins and stuff like that, I enjoy. But those types of games, that's what they do. They get you with $5 purchases at a time, and it adds up, and it adds up, and it adds up, and it's a lot more than, spending $6 or $60 on an expansion. And then even if there's a monthly fee on top of it, it still winds up being more in microtransactions, which again is not, I'm not against it. It's one of those things that's just the nature of those types of games. And like Matt said, I'll be damned if I do that for, every game.
Yeah, it's just too much. I mean, it's nothing. I don't have anything against Diablo Immortal, but I can't, guys. I mean, I couldn't have afforded.
And it can be played without spending money. Like, let's be clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can play it, and I would really recommend playing it and playing through the story. But
absolutely.
When you get into higher, the story's great, and it's a lot of fun to play. But as you get into higher and higher levels of gameplay, you need to level up your gems, and it is either an endless, time-consuming grind, or you spend money to level them. Those are your 2 options.
And it almost feels like you are being forced into it because you just can't. The amount you can get without spending money just does not feel tenable.
I call it the Facebook Farmville effect.
But the game itself, you can play the base game, you can go through the content and the story, you can play oh my gosh, I forget what, the Tempest, I think, was the last class they added.
Yes.
That's a class I would love to see. Yeah. Those both sound so cool. Yeah. So you can do all of that without paying a dime, which is pretty great, but you gotta resist the urge to go and give them any money because they do push you. They do push you to spend cash. You
will end up with like 10 $5 purchases in a month, and then you realize that's $50.
Yeah, it's a game.
Insert, I will never financially recover from this .gif.
Yeah.
It's a game I would be willing to pay a subscription fee for, like with the amount of content they roll out and the quality of the game. It's like, I would subscribe to keep playing this if I had time to do that, which I don't. But instead, it's just an endless chain of microtransactions, and it's just it wears me down. It's tiring. It's tiring to log on, and it's like, hey, claim your free reward from the store for today. Oh, hey, here's a special offer. Oh, don't you want to buy this? And it's okay. I'm tired of logging out. Bye.
How would you drink this poison milk? Like, no, thank you. But at this point, we're going to move on. I don't know how much time we have left because we did the other thing, so I think we got time for some questions, right?
We do indeed have time, probably for both questions.
Let's find out. First off, if you got a question for the show, you can email us at podcast@blizzardwatch.com, subject line podcast of Blizzard Watch, so we know it's for this show. If you want to use our Discord, we've got 2 channels on Discord. One is for everybody, and that's just the Q and Podcast Questions channel, where one of these questions comes from. And the other is from our patron Q and Podcast Questions channel, which is for people who are our patrons on Patreon, because you guys are amazing and you keep the lights on. Before we do that, though, I'm going to turn to Liz and say, hey, don't you have a thing to tell us about Patreon?
Yes. We are trying to up our Patreon a little bit and keep us over $4,000 a month. We'd really feel better if we were at $4,500 a month, but as long as we're at over $4,000 a month, the site's doing good. So I'm just reminding you, Blizzard Watch is supported by listeners like you. If you enjoy these podcasts, if you want more podcasts, please consider supporting us if you can. You can also subscribe to this podcast, share this podcast with friends, like it, review it, all of those good things. All of that helps. I do appreciate all of you here listening. I want to call out some new supporters in the past week. Mike upgraded his pledge to $25. Thank you so much, Mike. It is people like you who really help us keep the site going. Sylvana joined as a $5 member, and Luna joined as a $5 member. Thank you. These little contributions, they really help keep the site going.
Even if you can just give us $1, that's still more than we get. Go ahead.
Frankly, even that's the thing about Patreon. We can have a lot of people who give a little, and that makes the site work. We are working on bringing more content to you guys. We're doing a bunch of tabletop games over the next month that we're going to be releasing later in the future. We're kind of trying to get all our ducks in a row before we put them out on the podcast feed. We are doing some extra Dragon Age lore watches leading up to the Veilguard release at the end of October. And we're out here trying to do tons of War Within guides. We're lining up Diablo 4 guides for the new expansion. So we have big plans to make content that I hope you will enjoy. And if you do enjoy it, if you want us to do more of it, please support us on Patreon. It really helps. But I also understand that you may not be able to support us. That's fine. I get that. I've been there. I'm kind of there right now, honestly. But listening, reading the site, even moral support, it really helps. I mean, moral support actually really, really helps. So thank you all for being here.
All right. Thank you very much, Liz, for throwing that out there for people to know, because it is pretty much why we have a site to even do these questions.
It is. It is.
So here comes the first one from Dad the Game Master. Did I send this? Guess not. Question for Blizzard Watch. Though there have been official and unofficial World of Warcraft tabletop role-playing games, what TTRPG game would you want to see WoW in nowadays? Liz first.
I have absolutely no thoughts about this. I probably have less tabletop gaming experience than either of y'all, and most of it is Dungeons and Dragons, so I feel ill-equipped to comment on this. I'm throwing this back to you.
Okay, Joe, you got anything?
Yeah, so maybe I'm tipping my hat a little bit here, and for the folks from the site that listen that are going to be playing this later, I guess close your ears. DC 20 really fits the MMO sort of WoW experience incredibly well. Now, it is an early access game. It was a Kickstarter thing, and I will freely admit that I am a backer of it and have gotten the PDFs and have been doing some beta testing and reading with it. But there are a lot of things that I really like about it that take some of the really cool ideas that D&D 4th edition tried to do that then moved into 5th edition. but then take it and say, what if this was just more streamlined and made more sense and was a little more accessible to players? And so I was literally going to run a WoW one-shot in DC 20 because all the classes translate almost 1-to-1. All of the things you can do with spells translate almost 1-to-1 in a lot of easy ways. Like, there are things like we talked about earlier with the Evoker and how you can like power up certain abilities. You can do that if you're a magic wielder in DC 20 with things called spell points, and you get 4 of those or whatever, however many based off your class that like you can spend per like recovery period, and each one allows you to do things like cast a spell or make a spell bigger. The example that I like giving people is like, let's say I want to cast, I don't know, Chaos Bolt, and it's a cantrip, so I can do this at will. So I do that, but it's a boss fight, right? I want to be able to hit it more. So I'll spend a spell point to power it up, and now it's not a cantrip, it's a level 1 spell, and it adds damage and it adds effect. But that's not enough. This is a boss fight, so I'm going to add another spell point. It's going to be a level 2 spell now, and it's going to keep going and growing, and the effect gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that even when you only have cantrips left, or when you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, you feel like you have an impact. It's the same thing for healing, right? Like you can empower healing spells, and then you have martial points that let warriors and rogues and you know, all like rangers do extra attacks in combat and things like that allow them to do things like, okay, well, I've already taken one attack, now I'm going to take the next attack at disadvantage. I'm going to spend a martial point, and now that attack's just flat. So then it's just, you know, you're just really good at attacking things, and maybe that's what you want to do. So it really is something that the more I look at it, including like the initiative system, it feels like it would translate really well into action games with like an equal amount of like role playing. So you could role play, but then the action sequences move a little smoother, and you can almost then, like, I'm designing encounters, and at the end of the day, like, I think it was like last week Saturday, I'm sitting there running our pre-release at the shop, and I'm like, each round's an hour, so I have all this time unless somebody's coming to talk to me or ask me a question, I've got nothing else to do. So I'm designing like fights, I'm designing encounters, and I sat back and I looked at it, I was like, this is a WoW fight. This is exactly a WoW fight. Okay, then. So yes, DC 20 gets my recommendation for it just right now, and maybe it's part of the honeymoon period, and that I'm very enamored with it. But having done something where I try to translate WoW into 5th edition, I've tried to translate it into base 10 role playing systems. I've even tried to translate it into Powered by the Apocalypse. It doesn't translate very, very well, but this one seems to sort of just fit. It fits a lot better. So, all right, I'll stop talking now. That was a lot. Matt, what do you got?
Lumen.
Yeah, you really like the Lumen system, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Plus, the thing about Lumen is literally designed to recreate video games.
Mm-hmm.
Its entire design is, do you like X video game that does these things? Well, then you will like this system, because that's what this system is for. And it was originally designed to basically he wanted to make a Destiny tabletop game. And his first game, which was, I think it was Nova, which was essentially kind of his Destiny game. Yeah. I remember that now. Okay.
And
the thing is if you're making a game that can ape Destiny, you've just made a game that can ape Diablo. And if you've made a game that can ape Diablo, you've made a game that can ape World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft has spent 20 years aping the crap out of Diablo and has never stopped. It's just Diablo with less absolute horror all the time. That's not fair, but no one asked me to be fair, and I don't care. But also, I do think there is something to be said for a lot of the talents and specializations and a lot of things that make WoW to us were inspired by one variety of Diablo or another. I'm seeing a lot of Diablo in The War Within. Like, it feels a lot like the stuff that we saw in Diablo 4 has then been taken into to The War Within, and in a lot of ways made even better. So yeah, I definitely think that Lumen could work really well for a World of Warcraft style game if that's what you wanted to play. That would be the one I'd use. My runner-up is Mutants and Masterminds, because I think people often don't realize that a game can be a superhero role-playing game. It doesn't actually have to use superheroes.
Yeah.
It's just that this is a game about really powerful people. And I'm sorry, you've played World of Warcraft, you know that we get ridiculous. Every expansion we get ridiculous. And so it kind of works. You could just make everybody, you could design them with mutants and masterminds, give them all powers that'll go along with their abilities as WoW classes, and call it a day. So those are the two I would list. I guess since we've pretty much covered that into the ground, I guess we'll go with Tetsemi here. This one is a question for the Blizzard Watch podcast pre-show and or MCUDC Lore Watch. We didn't do it in the pre-show for obvious reasons, so we'll just throw this in here. I just watched the Thunderbolts trailer, and I see a lot of comments about how the Sentry is going to be a problematic character, as well as being a Superman-esque character with mental issues and addictions. Tell me more about the Sentry and the Golden Sentry Serum, please. No. Joe, you got anything?
I'm not going to judge it until it's released, because Marvel has made it a point to not necessarily shy away from some of the problematic characters, but try to fix them in terms of like how they're presented. So the Sentry is a very sensitive character because of the personality disorder and the mental conditioning that is present there. It's a long history that we're not going to get into because there's a lot of really bad stuff tied up into it, which makes sense for when it was created. For the time frame, but yeah, I'll wait and see what they do. So
Liz, I know you read comics, so if you have anything to say about this, feel free to.
I do not.
Okay, I'm going to just say this much: Marvel has, I think, 6 Superman characters.
Oh, easily. If not, I think they might have a little bit more, but yeah, 6 main ones. Yeah,
I can list right off the top of my head: Hyperion, Gladiator, the Sentry. Who is the blue one? Blue Marvel. So
Blue Marvel, yep.
Can't remember 5 and 6 off the top of my head, but I know that they'll come to me sooner or later. My point just being, if DC had this many Marvel ripoffs, everybody would call them on it constantly. But nobody ever says, yeah, hey, Marvel, why yet another Superman? Seriously, guys, what's the deal?
Oh, you didn't even talk about Wundar.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't. That's my bad. Anyway, yeah, because originally didn't he become the Sagittarian or something?
Yeah, he became the Sagittarian. Or we could talk about Omega, who
Omega, yeah, Kid Omega / Omega, yeah. Oh,
yep.
Different guy, but yeah, Omega, that guy. Yeah, so there's a lot of them. I just feel
Icarus
like that's
from
all
the
I gotta say
Eternals.
on that one. Yeah, although Icarus, and to be fair, Icarus is really not that much like Superman aside from the movie. Like in the comics, he's more of yet another Kirby god guy.
I could bring up Zoran, the Sun God, who is basically just Superman with a yellow costume.
Yeah, well, you could do that, but we're stopping now. My point just being that I don't feel like the Sentry adds anything particularly interesting, but we'll see. They might do something cool with him. They might, decide we're going to take this idea of a Superman XP and we're going to do something cool and interesting with it. Who knows? I don't know. I do know that I like most of the cast that I've seen for Thunderbolts. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is hilarious in every scene I've seen for her. I like the second Black Widow that they have. I want to say Pugh, but I can't remember her first name. She's also in the
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh. Yeah, she's in the Dune movies, and she's pretty good.
Harrison Ford is Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, and to be fair, he took the role because somebody else died.
He did.
But he's Harrison Ford. How far is he going to? He's not going to mess us up.
Sebastian Stan's back as Bucky.
Sebastian Stan, another character I really like.
David
and I
Harbour
just
is back as the Red. Sorry, I'll stop now.
Yeah. Yes, he will. But final question. This one's from Mayron. I think it's Mayron. You didn't actually say how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Mairon, so I'm going with Mayron. If you would DM a Warcraft RPG for mixed faction characters, at what point in Azeroth's history would the RPG take place? For me, it would be during the War Within, because it serves as the first chapter of an arc, has a mixed faction expedition, and offers great potential for dungeon crawling. Do either of you have an opinion on this one?
I think you could do Dragonflight for exactly the same reason. But you could always be creative and do what you want to do. I know for tons of expansions, I log on and I do these quests. I'm like, okay, why are we fighting, guys? Couldn't we figure this out together? Couldn't we sit down and say, okay, I hate Sylvanas and let's murder her and get over this. It feels like there have been lots of expansions where it's like the expansion is Horde versus Alliance, but the players are not necessarily Horde versus Alliance, and the characters don't have to be Horde versus Alliance. You can set something in the Warcraft world and not necessarily follow straight faction lines. I mean, we see a lot of NPCs like this. Even though the faction divide still exists, we constantly see cross-faction NPCs working together, either grudgingly or willingly. But, so it's not something, just because it's in the game doesn't mean you can't tell stories without it.
Joe? Also, by the way, really good answer, Liz.
Yeah, I agree. Very good answer, Liz. The simple answer is the timing really doesn't matter, because if I'm going to throw people into something like this with a mixed faction, you're not in anywhere you know. So the timing almost doesn't matter, because you're going to be forced to work together to survive in some capacity or figure out where you are. It's not going to be a continent, it's not going to be anywhere you can easily get back home from. And it's going to force you to sort of like deal with the task at hand, not necessarily worry about faction lines or faction divides. Give you a unifying thing to work against so that you coalesce into a group and move forward. Not saying that that's what I'm going to do in this one shot, but it's on the table. Because if you're in a nation or an island or a landmass that was previously undiscovered, you can do anything, literally anything. We've traveled to other planets. Other planets exist. We've traveled to other realities. Like, you can literally do anything you want in this and still have it feel like Warcraft. You just got to be careful about it. Matt?
I'm pressing the wrong button. The major adventure of Warcraft 3 is all about people from the Horde and Alliance coming together and doing something. So I think Liz had a really good point in that you don't have to do it just because World of Warcraft does it. I actually have had the experience of playing in a World of Warcraft themed D&D game. A friend of mine ran like a 2-session game that I played in, and he almost immediately threw us back in time to like the time of the time of the dragon books, not 4,000 years ago or whatever. Like literally,
Dawn of the Aspects.
Yeah, no. Deathwing is here. He's doing bad stuff. He pretended to be Davil Presser. That time, and we prevented Nozdormu from being assassinated, and we did a whole bunch of stuff to keep the timeline from being changed. And then he gave my character Ashkandi,
of course, he did,
cast enlarge/reduce on the enlarged version on my character, who was a dwarf. He was like a very cool barbarian lady, so she was already like 8.5 feet tall, holding Ashkandi. Now she's like twice that, so she's 16 feet tall. Then they cast Reduce on the dragon that we were fighting, and I could not stop myself from killing that dragon, which unfortunately changed the timeline and stranded us in the past.
Yeah, that tracks.
We couldn't go back because we were now on the new timeline. And it was fun, and we had Horde and Alliance and non-anything characters. My Vrykul aren't in the Horde or the Alliance. Like, you're not limited to playing Horde and Alliance characters. You're not limited to like keeping Horde and Alliance characters apart. You're not even limited to like the setting as it's written. Like you can do whatever. If you're running a World of Warcraft themed game, you can just straight up, you can kill Ashara as your opening. You can have the players kill Ashara and then move on from there. You can do whatever. You can have Varian Rin still be alive. You could have Orgrim Doomhammer still be alive.
And the best thing is, because the time wastes exist, if you wanted to tie it back to being canonical to the other things that are going on, you can do that too. Like, you have all the options.
You do whatever you want. And so if I'm going to play around with Azeroth's history just because it's cool to discuss it, I would go with the Mage Wars, because you'd be way before the Horde or Alliance really exist. You could play trolls, you could play humans, you could play whatever. You couldn't play anything from Draenor, except, of course, unless you chose to, and you could make it work however you want. But I would go back to there, because I think that's a cool time with a lot of intrigue going on and weird alliances between elves, humans, and dwarves and so forth that play out very interestingly. So that's a timeline, I think, time period I think would be interested. But again, I don't think you don't need to limit yourself in any way. And I think I wish that I'd been the one to say it, but Liz said it, and so we have to give her credit, because it's true. You absolutely don't have to limit yourself. But I think that answers that question pretty well.
I think so.
Either of you guys have anything else you want to say before we move on and have Joe do his thing?
No.
I am good. And therefore,
right,
friends, Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast site and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to the podcast, better chance of having your question answered on our podcast of the queue, and an ads-free site experience.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you to both Joe and Liz for being here, because not just for this podcast, but the one we recorded earlier, because that was a lot of fun. I really, when it does finally come out, you guys will get to hear Liz and I just go. There's just so much going. It's like, man, give us 3 hours to talk about Dragon Age, because oh my word.
Well, I got some good news for you. There's going to be more episodes. You're going to get many hours to talk about Dragon Age.
Yes, but I wish they'd all been at once. But at the same time, I do like to do things like eat and live. So, but thank you guys for being here and helping. Thank you, audience. You didn't help; you made the show. Thank you, audience, for being here and listening. So we have a show to do. And thank you to me just for being here. I'm kind of like the snapper car of this whole situation. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we will be back next week.